Three, two, one, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello. Wait, we did that last
Hello.
time.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Hello, my
Hello, my
ragtime
ragtime
gal.
gal. Send me a kiss by wire.
Baby, my heart's on
On
fire.
fire, on
If you refuse me,
fire.
honey, you'll
Honey, you
lose
lose
me
me,
and
then
be
you'll be
left
left
alone.
alone. Oh, baby, telephone. Tell me
Tell me
on
I'm
your
your
own.
own.
We're cracking up. This is going out to everybody. What are we doing?
I have no idea. That's Bugs Bunny for you, right?
Yes.
Am I right, fellas? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's like, what's Bugs Bunny? All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. The fantasy playoffs are here right now. Week 15, waiver wire show. And if your waivers are open, you need help. Now, before we jump in, Dr. Jene Bramel did send me a note, and I have to be careful how I say this, Bloom. But Dr. Gene sent a note, and he wanted to, in addition to his normal, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, he also wanted to note that Fantasy Jam should be prepared for what we're seeing right now. What we're seeing with Tyler Higbee, what we're seeing with, I know the Dolphins were on bye, but like all three of their backs are on the COOF list. And Dr. Gene, these are his words, so YouTube, don't get mad at me. It's cold and flu season. It's the respiratory season, I believe is what he said. So y'all need to be ready for this stuff, and you need to be ready for it to be like last minute stuff. You know what I mean? Like the Higbee stuff, I think came out Sunday, or maybe it was Monday morning. But either way, like it is cold and flu season, elevated levels of COOF floating around, people acting like nothing's wrong. That's floating around too. This is my opinion anyway, Bloom. So again, have to be very careful with that. But before we get to Dr. Gene Bloom, be careful the way you say it. But people should be almost even expecting. And listen, when anyone goes on the COOF list, I'm just like, please be okay.
Right.
Please be okay. I don't give a damn. He's just shot. He's got no shot. Like, yeah. Okay. Your stuff, that's later. But if someone has a health issue, I want them to be better, Bloom.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody take care of yourself, take care of the people around you. We've been talking about this even before the pandemic. But I would say this, look at your bench and make sure you have at least one player that is an emergency, in case of emergency, break glass kind of player. JD McKissick, hopefully he'll be back this week from his concussion, but that kind of player, a player that's going to get you 6 or 8 touches. Darrell Williams, some of these backups Devin Singletary, some of these backups who we know will get at least a handful of touches in any given week. Even somebody like, I don't know, Ronald Jones, Mark Ingram should be back. Mike Davis, I think, is a good one. So you look at your bench. We still want to have those high upside speculative pickups, and then also you need to have your bench reinforced. Maybe in years past, we would go through without a backup quarterback, without a backup tight end, but now at any moment you might have to be ready for that. I will say this: one thing that's consistent in fantasy football season, it rewards perseverance. It rewards vigilance.
Preparedness.
It rewards caring. Yeah. So this is an extra thing to care about, and it could decide your championship.
Hey, life rewards caring as well. Am I right? Okay, let's get to it. Injured quarterbacks. Here is Dr. Gene Bramel.
Got 2 significant quarterback injuries to track this week. Lamar Jackson suffering an ankle injury. Wasn't clear in the beginning whether or not it was going to be a high ankle sprain or not. John Harbaugh on Monday said that the team does not believe it to be a high ankle injury. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a simple and quick recovery for Jackson, especially with his running quarterback nature, getting in and out of the pocket and threatening defenses with his legs. So Jackson is hopeful to play. That's what the Ravens are hoping for. But Harbaugh did say that Tyler Huntley is ready to go if necessary. So we'll see how this goes. Day-to-day return for him. I've got him listed questionable for now. We'll see whether or not he's able to play. Josh Allen dealing with what's been called a foot sprain or a toe sprain. Honestly, those injuries are probably similar, in which the toe that we're talking about, the big toe, connects to the back of the foot pair, and whether it's a foot sprain or a toe sprain is probably semantics. The issue is the same. Is Allen going to be able to threaten defenses with his legs? We've seen with Patrick Mahomes and other running backs and wide receivers dealing with turf toe injuries. It's a difficult injury, painful injury to play through and be as productive running the ball as what you'd expect with change of direction otherwise. Allen played through the injury, did okay, going to be limited in practice this week, very likely to play, but you wouldn't expect him to be able to be as strong downfield in the rushing game as he's been in the past. We'll see how that progresses. Should get Jalen Hurts back this week from an ankle sprain back in Week 11. He's probable to play coming out of Philadelphia's Week 14 bye. Daniel Jones is continuing to see specialists for his neck injury. Doesn't sound very promising for him, but at least the evaluation process is ongoing. Outside chance he'll be able to return, but the closer we get to the end of the season here, they may choose not to risk Jones if there's something going on with a disc or a nerve issue there a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. Taylor Heineke left the game with a knee injury. Doesn't expect to be anything significant. He was talking more about some elbow discomfort toward the end of his playing time last week than anything else, but it doesn't look like the knee is going to be an issue. Matt Rule on Monday said that Sam Darnold would have a chance to come back this year, but also said that he was a few weeks away. So I don't expect Darnold to get cleared for contact until later in the year. But with P.J. Walker and Cam Newton struggling a little bit, Darnold could become a factor before the end of the year. Probably not much to be mindful of with that Panthers offense
Anyhow, once again, my video editing skills are right on the money. Dr. Jene Bramel, right on the money. So is Sigmund Bloom's upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. I was going to say 50% because you got two 50-plus percenters. Swing your sword, fire your cannons, whatever. Justin Fields, Taysom Hill. Go.
Yeah, and I think that the numbers don't really matter. I mean, if you have something left, these are players that you go ahead and push it all in to the middle for. Justin Fields making some nice throws, doing more as a runner. It seems like he's going to get unleashed also against Minnesota this week, so that's a good matchup. All these things, I would say, prioritize Fields over Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill doing the Tim Tebow thing where it's a fluke, it can't be reproduced, and somehow it's reproduced every week. Alvin Kamara said he told him he slide. He said he told his dumb, to slide. Sorry, Joe, to slide.
Yeah.
So you gotta love that. Yeah, like Alvin Kamara. Well, fantasy teams that had Taysom Hill are glad that he didn't listen. That he's a dumb sorry Joe. And hey, it's Tampa this week, and that's actually the kind of game that sets up for some fluky plays, some meaningless touchdowns in the second half, maybe with Tampa Bay leading. So those are your two guys, and one is comical, one is looking towards better things in the future. I'd say it's Fields over Hill, but both are definitely quarterback ones for Week 15.
You know what my mom always said? Better be a smart ass than a dumbass.
Yeah.
So there you go. Moving on. Sorry, Joe. And don't fake slide. College football took that play away. Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. Changing the game.
Changing the game. Baker Mayfield, not really. His game's kind of the same. 20 to 40%. And Ben Roethlisberger, the same thing. 20 to 40% for these two who are desperately trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, this is Roethlisberger running the offense, Sandlot style, and it is a matchup against Tennessee, not an opposing secondary there. So I'd probably go with him over Mayfield. You have to flip a coin, although Mayfield plays on Saturday. We got Saturday football this week, Cease, against the Raiders. Ooh, don't go on any logos before the games again. So, yeah, I think that both of these guys are viable plays. Mayfield, I think, is second to Roethlisberger in this tier because Mayfield didn't look quite the same in the second half after he took a hit and had to go to the medical tent. So maybe this is a more Nick Chubb, Dearness Johnson game than a Mayfield game unless the Raiders change the Browns' plans.
Now, the change of plans for me, because I was going to have Tyler Huntley as our cover athlete, right?
Sure.
Because again, and I think I said it on the recap show, Bloom. I can't remember. I talk all the time, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but I was like, I wanted to make fun of the Drew Lock stands because Tyler Huntley comes in and he just looks good. Yeah. And all the Drew Lock stands are like, he doesn't have enough time. They missed out on the reps. He doesn't practice during the week. That doesn't matter if you can play. It doesn't matter if you're good. Tyler Huntley is good. And my plan was Tyler Huntley's going to be our cover athlete. Nope. Made it Rashad Bateman. We'll get to the wide receivers later. But Tyler Huntley, 5 to 10%, and he'd be higher. And listen, we all want Lamar Jackson to have great health, and they're expecting Lamar Jackson to play. But boy, howdy, Bloom, was I disappointed yesterday when I had to write that story for our newswire of like, it's probably going to be Lamar, not Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, but when we know Ian's cat's in the chat room, he's a big Ravens guy saying, "Hey, John Harbaugh doesn't always tell the truth." How many times have we seen Kyle Shanahan did it already this year with Elijah Mitchell, right? Oh, he's going to play.
Right.
No, he's not. So we still have to use Dr. Gene. We still have to use our common sense to determine this. And if it was a severe enough injury that he wasn't able to play the rest of the game, then there's no sure thing he's going to play. Tyler Huntley could be the guy there against Green Bay. And like you said, CC can play. If we knew Lamar Jackson wasn't going to play this week, then Tyler Huntley would probably be in that Roethlisberger Mayfield tier. If we knew that he was also potentially missing multiple weeks, Tyler Huntley would be right there with Taysom Hill and Justin Fields. So there's a lot still here left to unfold. We'll be watching the situation as the week goes on. And, on the flip side of it too, just because Lamar Jackson plays doesn't mean he's going to be himself and play well. So a lot of things here maybe for the Ravens to decide. Is it 100% Huntley better than a 75% Jackson? I'm glad I don't have to make that decision.
If he's 75%, and the risk of re-injury is always there with that type of quarterback, the rushing athletic quarterback, when you're talking about an ankle injury. I don't know what to call Davis Mills, but I'm not going to call him rushing or athletic. But he is a 1%er this week.
Yeah, and from a real football standpoint, Cease, his story is really compelling because he has a chance to convince this team that should pick in the top 5, although if he plays well and they beat Jacksonville lower in the top 5, maybe they'll miss out on one of those top ends. But regardless, the smart play this year, if you have a top 5 pick, is probably going to be, well, if there's a team that wants to trade in the top 5 for a quarterback, then go for it. Let them give you a king's ransom. But if not, you're not going to take a quarterback. And that fits conveniently with Davis Mills developing. Like you said, Cease, he's had basically as many starts this year as he's had in his collegiate career, and he's progressing in an environment where there wasn't a lot to work with, a lot around him. So if he can keep this up, certainly this week against Jacksonville should allow him to show even more. And in 2 quarterback superflex leagues, he's showing more, again, with that 14-for-14 start against Seattle last week.
I would say this, and not to get too far off topic, Bloom, but it is not a good quarterback class. I just brought up Kenny Pickett. What's he, like a top 30 player, maybe?
Right. Maybe he could go in the early second round. Yeah.
Guys will get Matt Corral is so far my favorite quarterback, early swipe. But like these guys will all get drafted earlier than they should. One of my scouting buddies said this is like EJ Manuel's draft.
Yes.
That's not great.
No. Geno Smith was in that draft.
There you go.
Not great.
Geno Smith was at New York City for 2 days when I was there because he waited, and I give him a lot of credit for that. Like he waited in the green room, but that was not the way you wanted that day to go. All right. You want your running backs to be healthy, but my God, buckle up. This one's a big one from Dr. Jene Bramel because we have to talk about the injured running backs, and there's a lot of them.
Got a ridiculously long list of running backs to be looking at this week as well. As I count up here, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11 running backs I've got on this list that are COVID positive and in various stages of recovery. And a number of teams, Miami and New Orleans, both dealing with multiple players on this list. So to go down the list here, Austin Eckler dealing with an ankle injury that saw some speculation could be a high ankle situation. I don't really think that's what's going on with him. His leg and his ankle were moving in the same direction. His foot was not up against the ground. I don't expect this to be a significant deal for the Chargers. It sounds like it's an aggravation of something he was already dealing with, but they do have a tough turnaround to play on the Thursday night game, so you're going to have to watch Eckler's status carefully. Elijah Mitchell had an MRI last week for some knee inflammation and irritation he was experiencing. That doesn't appear to be a concerning issue. We'll see whether or not he can progress through the concussion protocol and the exercise protocol in time to play this week. I think he's going to have a good chance to do so. We're hearing some news that DeAndre Swift could have been put on injured reserve. Adam Schefter was reporting that towards the end of last week after aggravating a shoulder sprain back on Thanksgiving Day. But Dan Campbell on Monday said that Swift was hopeful to be able to get back. Whether or not that proves to be the case remains to be seen. Jamal Williams is one of those players on the COVID list. Darrell Henderson dealing with a thigh injury, also COVID positive through the weekend. We'll see whether or not he's able to recover in time. Some good news out of New England seems to be that Damian Harris is going to have a chance to play this week. Still have him listed as day-to-day and questionable. We're not likely to get anything other than a bunch of limited practices for Harris. Hopefully the local beat writers will have something actionable for us to go on as we get later in the week. Both Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard in Philadelphia look to be able to return. Miles Sanders doesn't seem to be much question about. Jordan Howard still dealing with a knee injury. They're hopeful that they'll have him back, but he's probably on the questionable side, if anything. Kareem Hunt suffered a high ankle sprain and would look like a fairly significant one. Hunt has already been on injured reserve once this year. He cannot go back on injured reserve and then be designated to return a second time. So don't expect that to happen. He's being called week to week. This could easily be a 3 to 4 week situation. He's more or less been ruled out for this week, but don't assume that to mean that he's going to be back in week 16. We'll see how that goes, but very unlikely to play this week. Myles Gaskin, Salvan Ahmed, Philip Lindsay, all dealing with COVID at this point. Gaskin was the first player to be put on the list December 10th. He's going to have a tough turnaround for this week, but it's possible that one or more of these players could clear protocols able to come. But Lamar Miller's been signed, or at least going to be looked at, and we'll see whether or not Malcolm Brown's going to be able to come back. Brian Flores did say that they expected him to get back on the practice field and be designated to return from Week 7 quad injury. Could see Brown as the primary running back immediately if he looks to be in condition and these other players are not able to get off the COVID list. Tony Pollard dealing with the plantar fascia strain. Wasn't too surprising that he wasn't able to go last week, and it's probably a better issue for him in the long term to give him that extra week of recovery time. Mike McCarthy on Monday sounded a lot more hopeful than what the team sounded throughout the week last week. Wouldn't go so far as to say Pollard is probable to play and ready for a full and at least his pre-injury workload, but he's got a much better chance to go this week than he did last week. Spoke about David Johnson a little bit earlier, a player that came back off the COVID list within 48 hours. Not an issue there in Houston. Rex Burkhead, however, suffered a groin injury that's likely to keep him out multiple weeks. J.D. McKissick was close to being clear in concussion protocol, and Washington elected not to clear him last week. He's got a very good chance to play. We're watching Alexander Madison's COVID issues. He's positive as well. Mentioned New Orleans, Mark Ingram and Ty Montgomery, both on the COVID list. Those players were in the middle of last week. Both have a chance to play. Ingram's 10-day isolation period is going to end right around Saturday. He should have a chance to play. Montgomery could be cleared as well, but he's going to be a little bit closer. Tevin Coleman dealing with concussion, wasn't able to play last week. Giovanni Bernard likely to miss some time with a hip strain and an MCL sprain on the right side. Both right hip and right knee are issues. I wouldn't expect him back before closer to the end of the year. Travis Homer dealing with calf and hamstring issues. Pete Carroll described Homer's status as hopeful as well, but we'll see whether or not he's able to return. On Monday night, Chase Edmonds was not designated to return, still on the injured reserve list with a high ankle sprain. He is very likely to come back this week. James Conner looked to be dinged up in the last couple of series. Don't know whether there's anything to be mindful there in Arizona, but we'll want to watch that running back situation carefully. Michael Carter has not been designated to return yet, but Robert Saleh said that the team expects Carter to be able to return to practice from a high ankle sprain that he suffered back in Week 11. That was originally said to be a 1 to 2 week injury, and it's been a month coming through the Jets' bye. So I think there's a good chance that he's going to be in enough condition to play, but you're going to want to watch towards the end of the week and see what the team decides to do after he gets back to practice a little bit.
Hey, got it right that time. Dr. Jene Bramel, always getting it right. Bloom, and your waiver wire list. And that was a thick group of running backs.
Yeah.
Again, going back to what we talked about at the top of the show, you're going to have to be ready for other guys to play. Who are those other guys? Now, it's Dante Foreman and Rashad Penny. Numbers don't really matter, but you both have them at 50+%. If I may add, Bloom, about Rashad Penny, it's all about windows.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get hurt this week. So, like, okay, I got Rashad Penny. I spent all my waiver bucks. I might let someone else chase that ghost, Bloom. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But what have we known about Rashad Penny? He'll flash and then he'll get hurt.
Right.
And I hope he stays healthy forever and ever. I hope he runs for 1,000 yards in the next 4 games. I doubt he makes it through those games.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's why he wasn't a priority going into this week, right? It's why we weren't talking about him, but the proof's in the pudding. It may just be the poor Texans tackling. You can't go against this if you've been sitting on the hammer. He's the hammer. Or Ramondre Stevenson. I didn't include him because I thought everybody would carry him through the bye after Damian Harris got hurt. I would probably put Stevenson ahead of Penny if he's out there, even with Harris potentially getting back. And then we have Dante Foreman, who doesn't have a high weekly ceiling, but seems to have a high weekly floor. He's getting about 1/3 of the snaps at running back, but about half of the touches and those goal line carries. And he was the only one to get running back receptions last week, even though he's not the passing down back. And they're playing Pittsburgh. Have you seen Pittsburgh's run defense? So maybe the Rams playing better. That's who Rashad Penny gets. Perhaps, because we saw James Conner stacked up except on those goal line touches. perhaps Foreman could be a better play than Penny. So those are your guys at 50+%. Michael Carter would probably slot into the next tier as we're watching, maybe as it trends up, more of a Dante Foreman style with a higher floor, lower ceiling, say, than the ceiling that Penny showed, that Stevenson would have shown when he has had the backfield all to himself. But it's always a moving target with these running backs. And then you add in the extra added Koof list variable, Cease, and we're going to be right up until game time, which again, remember, Cleveland, Vegas, Indy, New England's a Saturday night game, by the way. So those two games are on Saturday. Keep that in mind when we're thinking about these decisions, like Ramondre Stevenson versus. You're going to have to make those decisions on Saturday, not Sunday this week.
Saturday night's all right. And our chat room, greatest in all of radio, podcast, terrestrial, satellite, doesn't matter, because Rob brings up who's that league winner to stash now. I think it comes from your next group, because I think it's Jordan Howard. We can talk about Justin Jackson, and we'll get Joshua Kelly later on. Spoiler alert.
Right.
Craig Reynolds, although whatever the hell happened to that, I wrote up like, it's Jamar Jefferson against the Broncos.
Right.
They didn't touch the ball. So Craig Reynolds, Jordan Howard, Justin Jackson, the next group at 20 to 40%. But to answer Rob's question, if I'm going to put my chip on anything, always the black, never the red, and I'm going to go Jordan Howard from this group.
Yeah, I agree. And we would put Michael Carter in this group if he can get activated. Craig Reynolds is first because, well, you saw Godwin Igwebuike couldn't hold on to the ball, and Jamar Jefferson was on a milk carton. So it's Reynolds' show, and he looked good against the Broncos, Cease. He ran well. So why not? Playing Arizona this week, their run defense is suspect. He's going to get Seattle. That's not, I mean, if he's the starter against this schedule, Atlanta, those are all games that even Detroit's starting running back, I would want to have that starting running back in my lineup. And it looks like it's Craig Reynolds, a name that I shouldn't say that, because if you follow the Lions, he was a feel-good training camp story. Nobody thought he was going to make the team. See, so every year there's that ritual, the players that you watch and you know they're not going to make the team, but they're inspirational and you hope maybe eventually he'll get a shot. Well, he's getting a shot. And maybe, we're talking about Davis Mills this way, maybe some of these players, there's nothing on the line for the Lions. Well, they want to make sure not to win to keep that number one pick. Not that they're really going to do that. One more win, and they're not picking number one. But also, there's a lot on the line individually for these guys. Something to think about when we think about Craig Reynolds. Also, we're thinking about Jordan Howard. And I've gone over this a few times, but I'll go over it one more time. Miles Sanders hurt. Maybe healthier than Jordan Howard. I don't know. Boston Scott, last seen out with an illness, but also last seen on the field with a terribly costly fumble. Also, Miles Sanders was having fumble problems, and Jordan Howard replaced him before he hurt his knee. So you also have Kenny Gainwell we'll talk about, but Gainwell is clearly fourth when all are healthy. So add it all up. When Jordan Howard's healthy, he's probably going to lead this backfield in touches. I just don't know when that healthy is going to come. And then we have Justin Jackson, and Justin Jackson's kind of like Rashad Penny. If he's going to get an opportunity, he's probably going to get hurt. But he could get that opportunity. Austin Eckler sees a very similar situation to Lamar Jackson. Okay, the team's saying he'll be fine. I don't believe that. And in fact, if you have Eckler, you might hope he sits in week 15 to make sure you have him for week 16 and 17 because, he'll probably aggravate the ankle again. So Justin Jackson is clearly first in line. He's the clear best back out of him and Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree, also the most likely to get injured. So we might be talking about this Chargers running back situation a lot over the next few weeks, Cease.
I'd like to talk about Dearness Johnson, just like our guy Jay in the chat room says. We've already seen it. Who are those stash running backs? Well, Johnson and now Kareem Hunt out. So there you go. Dearness Johnson going to get that backup work. And if anything were to happen and he gets more of a play, then he can pay off with that play. So Dearness at 10 to 20%. Mike Davis, you talked about earlier, 10 to 20%. Yeah. And Boston Scott, who we've gone over. So, let's talk about this group.
Yeah, and Dearness Johnson with Kareem Hunt out for at least this week, probably more. If Nick Chubb gets hurt, all of a sudden Dearness Johnson's a league winner. But Dearness Johnson and Mike Davis, who's had back-to-back good weeks, Quadri Olson, I think, is out of that picture now. These are your players that, in case of emergency, break glass kind of players. And especially, when we look ahead, I think that this week is, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to get another Bears primetime game. No. Well, Justin Fields. I shouldn't say that. But I think we're getting the Vikings and the Bears. So, I mean, with Alexander Madison on the COOF list, maybe we should add Kene Nwangwu here, perhaps Khalil Herbert here. The point is, Kendall Blanton. How many people knew who Kendall Blanton was before Monday cease? Did we?
Not many.
Did you? I didn't even. I'll admit, I didn't know. I didn't know.
I don't think we ever mentioned him on the show.
So. No. He was an undrafted free agent who made the team and is running ahead of Bryson Hopkins. But all of a sudden, when Tyler Higbee was put on the COOF list before the game, everybody needed to know that. So again, you want to be one step ahead of the game, skate to where the puck's going to be. The puck may be Kenny Nwangwu, okay? It may be Khalil Herbert. And certainly chalk blocking. I had some people on my Twitter feed yesterday saying, well, I'm going to go pick up Kendall Blanton because the guy I'm playing this week, or gal, has Tyler Higbee. Yoink. Now you have to play Demetrius Harris. So Mike Davis has that kind of appeal that he's going to get 8 or 10 touches. You also have that kind of appeal for Dearness Johnson this week. Maybe Boston Scott probably is going to figure into the backfield somehow. Maybe he could be the starter. So, and against Washington. So a game that Philadelphia should be able to have a good chance of competing. So again, and while we're on the subject, I don't want to belabor it, but you look down the list and you're looking for any running back who has an opportunity. Amir Abdullah, running backs who we can pencil in for 5 to 7 touches may end up saving your bacon, or they could be someone who's going to save another team's bacon and they're on your bench where they can't help that team. So these are all things to think about in yet another fantasy football season that's keeping us on our toes.
Yeah, all the way to the end. Just when you think you're picking up Jared Dokes off the waiver wire.
Right.
There's Kenneth Gainwell. There's Duke Johnson Jr. Didn't they sign Lamar Miller?
Yeah.
Either
Well,
way.
they
Joshua
tried
Kelly,
him out.
1% as well there for Kelly. So let's wrap up these running backs, Bloom.
Yeah, and let's add Malcolm Brown in who's practicing. So if Malcolm Brown is activated, he'll be the starter, depending on what happens with all these COOF list guys. And then Jared Dokes, the 7th round pick, Duke Johnson, Kenneth Gainwell may be game day inactive, but may also get enough touches to be one of those players that help save you. Joshua Kelly, still not impressed. Might as well throw Larry Roundtree in there as a 1% guy too. Not very impressed. However, and by the way, Wayne Gallman is a name that's to toss out there because Minnesota claimed him when he was released by Atlanta. So maybe Gallman could be somebody because he's playing on Monday night. This is where we're at, Cease. We want to know basically every running back on a roster, which we normally do, but now we especially do. Some other names I'll toss out there, folks. Guys like Dontrell Hilliard and Jeremy McNichols, who are each getting about a third of the snaps for the Titans. Basically, any running back that we can contemplate is going to get touches probably needs to be on a roster.
Mike Boone.
Yeah?
Anyway, let's move on and go to the wide receiver injury. So Dr. Jene Bramel, fortunately, wide receivers aren't that much. But here we go, talking injured wide receivers in week 15.
Wide receiver spot is relatively healthy, thankfully, right now. Adam Thielen was not able to return from a high ankle sprain in week 13 to play on Thursday night. It's not yet clear whether or not this is going to be more of a 2 to 3 week situation. He's got a chance to play, or something a little bit longer than that. The team did not put him on injured reserve. I think they'd like to have him back sooner than later, but it's all going to depend on whether or not his recovery through that mini bye week has been enough to where he's going to be able to go. Keenan Allen should come off the COVID list. He was put on December 6th. There's every chance that the 10-day isolation period can pass, and as long as he's not symptomatic, he should be able to return by the end of the week and be ready to play. Terry McLaurin and Anthony Schwartz still dealing with concussions. Obviously, and McLaurin's the higher issue here. He'll be in concussion protocol. Decent chance to recover, but again, these players should be considered day-to-day until we see them do a little bit on the practice participation report. DJ Moore dealing with issues with his right leg. It's been described as a knee and or an ankle injury. Looks like a little bit more of a knee situation than anything else. Was able to come back and play, but you'd expect some limited practice from him. We're also going to want to watch DeAndre Hopkins, who was not on the field for the final series in the fourth quarter on Monday night. Not clear what's going on with him. Wasn't obviously an aggravation of the hamstring injury that he's been dealing with for a while, but that's something that we're going to want to watch. Kadarius Toney wasn't able to play through an oblique strain this week and put on the COVID list on Monday. Somebody that we'll need to watch carefully there. Emmanuel Sanders in Buffalo is not expected to play through a knee sprain this week. That could easily be a multiple week situation as well. Marquise Goodwin didn't play with a foot injury last week. We'll see whether or not he's able to go. Julio Jones was able to come back. You expect him back off injured reserve. We'll see how that goes moving forward. I'm still getting questions on Calvin Ridley. I do not expect him to play this year, and I would not hold necessarily a roster spot for him unless you had a lot of room to go there. So the Jets said Elijah Moore could return before the end of the year. He'll be eligible in Week 16 to come off injured reserve, but not sure I would wait for him either. Corey Davis done for the year with core muscle surgery, as is Randall Cobb. Cobb, I suppose, could come back in the playoffs, but you wouldn't expect him to be any sort of factor during the regular season. Will Fuller, again, not cleared to practice this week. Won't be surprising if he's not able to return for the rest of the year either.
And rest of the year either is what you're looking for. Now, a couple of Buffalo Bills to start out with for good reason. And you heard Dr. Gene talk about E gonna do E. So let's talk about Cole gonna do Cole, 50+%. Gabriel Davis also 50+%. And these Bills need to win, man.
Yeah, and maybe with Josh Allen battling some turf toe, he'll pass more. But with Manuel Sanders out, it makes it easy. You want to play your Buffalo receivers against Carolina, even better. Cole Beasley, the zone beater. Gabriel Davis got that great chemistry. Both of these guys could help put you over the top on the back of Josh Allen, partially because, well, Buffalo doesn't have a running game. We'll see how that storyline plays into the stretch run and hopefully the playoffs for Bills fans out there. You need to take care of business this week against Carolina.
Yeah, I need to start taking care of business. Holy cow. Rashad Bateman, there you go, our cover athlete this week, 25 to 50%. And Alan Lazard, 25 to 50% as well. Again, provided that Aaron Rodgers' toe is good good enough to go, because they can't inject it because then he can't feel his feet. Anyone that knows anything about quarterbacking is it all starts with your feet. You got to be able to set and throw for touch, timing, even power. Power comes from your footwork. So, yeah, you're going to have to deal with that broken pinky, Rodgers.
Did you see Rex INC's? He said, I'm a bit of an expert on toes. And I can't remember who it was. It was a god if I had to walk away. But he said, Aaron Rodgers just doesn't want to practice. That's what he said. He said, Aaron Rodgers just doesn't want to practice.
And Rex Ryan just wants to suck on toes. So
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly. Rashad Bateman facing Aaron Rodgers Packers.
Get down how you get down, baby, right?
Exactly.
No judgment. No judgment.
It's 2021.
Yeah, sucking on toes, whatever.
Consenting adults, right? And look, Tyler Huntley had some good chemistry with Rashad Bateman. Bateman moved back ahead of Sammy Watkins. So Bateman trending back up. Again, what a difference an agent makes. Alan Lazard, and we know that he's got great chemistry with Rodgers. We know he's one of Rodgers' boys, you know? I mean, just they've got that chemistry, that connection. Rodgers lobbying for him to play, and against Baltimore, now their secondary is in massive trouble. Alan Lazard, go back to the well here, I would say, this week, as he's more trusted than Marquez Valdez-Scantling, although it was Valdez-Scantling who has the long ball capabilities. Lazard can get downfield too, but against Baltimore, it really could be either or. I don't have Valdez-Scantling as an upgrade this week because he didn't do well, but he's also somebody we could look at because of this matchup and because apparently the worse Aaron Rodgers' toe is, the better he plays.
Yeah, that's fine. Totally fine with that. Let's move on to the next group, and that includes Amon-Ra St. Brown, 15 to 30%. And then Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, just check, 10 to 20%.
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown getting a lot of targets. And against Arizona this week, probably in the second half where they're coming back from a deficit, a lot of targets. Julio Jones wasn't spectacular. He did have 4 catches, and he didn't get hurt. It's Pittsburgh, run the ball against Pittsburgh, but Julio could gain some momentum as we go forward. Jarvis Landry, more of the high floor play. Donovan Peoples-Jones, more of the high ceiling play. Cleveland going up against Vegas this week. We'll watch the weather on Saturday, but if it's good, last time these teams played last year in Cleveland, it was a terrible offensive game. So we'll watch that, but if it's a good offensive game, again, want to hope that Baker Mayfield doesn't have any lingering issues from whatever was affecting him in the second half. Landry and Peoples-Jones, the Cleveland offense against a Vegas team that looks like they're ready to just end the season.
Yeah, and move on to the massive changes that will take place, just like Carolina. Robbie Anderson, though, 5 to 10%. KJ Osborne, 5 to 10%. And hell, let's just talk about the Chargers, guys. They're lower, 1% levels, but worth considering.
Yeah, and I had AJ Green in here from Monday night's game. As Dr. Gene said, DeAndre Hopkins were watching that. And, Christian Kirk is out there. There was opportunity there, depending on what's going on with Hopkins. I don't know if Kyler Murray's going to throw the ball 49 times again. Robbie Anderson, we're going to watch DJ Moore with that hamstring. Anderson caught a touchdown pass from PJ Walker, and he's caught one from Cam Newton, so there's some chemistry there. Maybe there's something there against Buffalo. Another game we'll be watching the weather. KJ Osborne had that long touchdown, ended up being the margin of victory. And, well, otherwise he would have been a dud against Chicago Monday night. Hey, at the very least, maybe wide receivers we may find as the week goes on. So you need to have an emergency wide receiver on your bench, too. He could be that guy, Jalen Guyton, Josh Palmer. Will we expect Keenan Allen back from the COOF list? But if not, Palmer gets more snaps. Palmer gets more opportunity when Allen is out. Jalen Guyton was basically playing the same role he'd been playing, but Jalen Guyton's hot. Justin Herbert's hot. But it's a Thursday night game. So that's maybe an opening for them. So they're 1%ers now. Cease, maybe by tomorrow we might say they should have been 10%ers or 20%ers, depending on the opportunity.
It is the Audible, and we have injured tight ends left to go, which means Dr. Jene Bramel joins us once again to talk about those banged-up tight ends in Week 15.
Darren Waller remains nowhere to be found on the practice field, now going on 2.5 weeks since he was reported to have an IT band strain in his left knee. Still listed with a back condition as well. So I get the impression there's something that the team in the national media hasn't had a chance to report yet. Just doesn't seem like this should be this much of a week-to-week issue with a simple IT band situation in the knee. So something more to come there. We'll see if he's able to get back on the practice field. Last week, the Raiders said that he was day-to-day, and then he wasn't seen even on the rehab field. So keep an eye on that situation. Outside chance he's able to come back, but it's not looking good. The Lions were describing T.J. Hawkinson's hand situation as hopeful again this week. There are some reports that there's not a break in his hand there, but that he's got enough swelling that he just wasn't able to go. So if that's the case and he doesn't have a broken bone in his hand, there is a good chance he'll be able to come back this week. But again, practice participation is going to be notable there. David Njoku, placed on the COVID list last week, has a good chance to return based on timing there. Tyler Higbee, unfortunately, on the COVID list just before Monday night's game. Some indication that he had a positive test and has already had a couple of negative tests, but was just not able to clear protocol. But he could potentially, even though it was a very late add, could be a player that might come off as a false positive situation. Also in Cleveland, Harrison Bryant dealing with a high ankle sprain. I wouldn't expect him back for a period of time. Adam Shaheen in Miami and Nick Boyle still dealing with chronic knee situations, questionable to play at best. Got a couple of folks that are eligible to return at the tight end position. Eric Ebron, meniscus injury. I don't expect him to be back this week. That's probably more of a 3 to 4 week situation, hopefully before the end of the year, but not a lot of upside in him this week unless something changes. Adam Troutman's MCL sprain had the look of a multiple week injury. I don't think he's going to be ready to come off injured reserve, even practice this week. We're probably still looking at another week or two with him. Blake Jarwin should be coming off the COVID list if he isn't already. In fact, I think that he is. The team said that his hip injury really wasn't expected to keep him out long, so it could have been that he was designated to return last week had he not ended up on the COVID list. So that's a possible situation where Dallas could be adding a player to the offense this week. All right, guys. Good luck, everybody.
I
love Dr. Gene. Yeah.
If we just lived in a world where
Coke.
if we just lived in a world where everybody approached interactions and whatever it is they contribute to the world the way Dr. Gene, that's utopia. Genetopia.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's. I'll write the story. Let's talk about the tight ends, and really, well, not a lot. But Austin Hooper, Brevin Jordan, Albert Okwuegbunam, and for the love of God, it's Okwuegbunam.
Wow,
The one thing
that
Drew
was
Lock
terrible.
did, Okwuegbunam, they keep calling him, or
Okwuegbunam.
It's Okwuegbunam, Okwuegbunam, Okwuegbunam. It's blanking easy. Drew Lock can say it, and he taught us how to say it. It's the best thing that he ever did. So, anyway, let's talk about the tight ends, Bloom.
Yeah, There is potential help here. Austin Hooper. Now, David Njoku could be back from the COOF list, but still, Njoku not in the way last week, and we'll see what happens on Saturday again. Brevin Jordan, who is still not leading the team in snaps at tight end, only a little over 30% of the snaps, but 7 targets from Davis Mills. And Davis Mills out there slinging it like a guy who knows who he's playing for his future. Brevin Jordan with a nice touchdown. The touchdown really nice by Davis Mills, extending the play. See, now you got me thinking about it.
Okwebunam.
I'll just let that stand because I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up again. But you just love the ability to dive for the pylon, the athleticism. Cecil, you've been telling people for 2 years now he's just as athletic, maybe more athletic because he's got functional athleticism as old Noah Fant. So, he could be the guy that come through in a pinch in a Cincinnati-Denver game that looks like it should be a fun one to cover.
Fun one. And for those wondering what's happening to the Denver passing game, it's... Even Detroit did this, which, proud of Detroit for doing it. But this is the common theme, Bloom. They single on the outside. Patrick and Sutton aren't getting open because they're not sudden receivers. Teddy comes off of them quickly.
Right.
Because Teddy's not going to wait for you to come open, and Teddy's not going to make that risky throw. You know what I mean? Like, Cortland Sutton's always open. Yeah, but he's always covered. And if he's always covered, Teddy Bridgewater's not going to throw to him. So what you're seeing is teams are bracketing Judy. You kind of, put 2 people on Judy, and he does the quick stuff underneath from the inside. The guys on the outside aren't getting open, so Teddy goes off them quickly. He goes hitch, throw, and that's to Fant or Okwebunam. So tight end friendly indeed. And I'm the guy that always mispronounces everything. I can pronounce Okwebunam. So
yeah, well, and I just like to say, even when Cortland Sutton's not open, he's open. Yeah, but when he's not open, he's not open.
Right. It is a Broncos show, and it is time as we move on to one of our favorites, one of your favorites as well. And I got a shorter version of this, but people liked it. So, Bloom, here we go. You know what time it is.
I want everyone to say it with me and scream it to the heavens. Okay? From the edge of the Rocky Mountains to you, wherever you may be. I want you to all say it with me. Cue the Chuck D!
Oh, Blue! Week 15 shutdowns.
The best part of that clip is the hat you're wearing. I'm not going to say what it is so people will come and watch the Waiver Wire show or go watch it on YouTube.
I have a story about that hat. But yes.
Of course. Their hat would have to be a story. Shut him down. Cam Newton, get benched twice in a game, Cease. Have we ever said that on the Audible? Someone got benched twice in a game. That's enough for me to say, even in 2 quarterback superflex leagues. Rex Burkhardt. That's another name they can't pronounce for some reason. Sorry to see him go. Jamar Jefferson, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to wait around to find out with him on my roster. Emmanuel Sanders, hate seeing that. Hope he'll be ready for the playoffs. If Buffalo can make the playoffs, I just bloom them. Allen Robinson, it's just not going to happen this year. Can't wait to see where he lands next year. Hopefully get him a quarterback. Cole Kmet, not going to happen. Dalton Schultz, when all the receivers are healthy, there's not much there for him, and Dak Prescott isn't exactly lighting it up. Tyler Conklin, so I dropped Tyler Conklin for Austin Hooper, probably Brevin Jordan, although he's still a good what-the-heck tight end play against Chicago. I remember those Green Bay tight ends did pretty well, but it is Monday night, so everybody now has that hesitation. Oh, Monday night, you might wait around and get a 0. Hopefully we'll have a better picture of this as the week goes on. And as the week goes on, Cease, we will hold on.
Yes, perfect transition, Bloom. What a professional, because there are some guys you just can't let go of. And so you've got to do what we call hold on. And who are those hold-ons in week 15?
Well, they ain't much, right? Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, you know why it's Kareem Hunt, Cease? Because the Browns play the Steelers in week 17. So if Kareem Hunt has come back, we got to see him in week 16, I'm going to want to have him in my lineup for week 17. I know we're not going to have him for week 15. James Robinson, and this is a sentimental one, Cease. This is sentimental. I'm not going to hold James Robinson responsible for what's happened. I may not play him, although James Robinson is also one of those emergency running backs. I may not play him, but I'm not going to drop him because it's not his fault, okay? It's not his fault. Darnell Mooney Maybe this week, instead of Demir Bird, it could be Darnell Mooney getting that ball in stride, hyper accurate throw from Justin Fields. I may not play him this week, but I want to see if it gets hot. It is Minnesota, so it really actually could come through for you. But I'm not going to drop Darnell Mooney, even though I am dropping Allen Robinson. And I guess we got to drop this show for week 15. Whew. It's Tuesday, and I feel like a lot's going to happen. I feel like we could do a waiver wire show every day this week. It's your Friday waiver wire report for week 15. So, yeah, folks, stay safe. Stay on top of the stuff. Football guys, we're going to have you covered. Another year like no other. Are we just going to keep saying that forever?
Yeah.
A year like no other. A year like no other. I mean, it can be true. It can be true that every year here forward will be a year like no other, but we get to spend it together, and that's what's important.
And you said the E word.
Every day.
Every day.
Uh-huh.
Every day. Every day.
Every year, Vic Fangio saves his job.
Not sure about that. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to follow all of us on Twitter, including me, because I'm going on a comic book podcast. That's why we started half an hour early, because in about 5 minutes I will be on a comic book podcast to promote, how about this guy? I'll promote my guy Gravis, and so I'll be going through some of my artwork, some of my projects, whether it's Gravis, Sue Immortal, Fake Booze, all that kind of stuff. So everyone stay tuned for that. Like I said, about 5 minutes, I'll be tweeting out the link. If you're interested in comics, you're a big super nerd like me, well then, there we go. And either way, follow me on Twitter at Cecil Lammey. How many times do I say that, Bloom? And mean it.
Yeah.
Follow the show at the Audible. Follow Sigmund Bloom at Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.